using the elsewhere because it's just like, oh,
The worst.
I don't like traveling with it. So I noticed the muslin's all gone. I had a pile here. So whoever took like one of those folded up pieces, you got to share that because there's enough on that for like 3 or 4 people to have a piece. So because there were only like 12 of those and I've got 21. Length grain, okay? So this is my cross grain, my weft, and this is my warp, my length grain. And the other way you can tell is by the fibers. On muslin, like on regular fabric you buy in the store, you can't tell by the fibers, but with muslin you can see that the weft is fuzzier than the warp. The warp is less fuzzy. Okay, so selvage edge, the fuzz, and the stretch. So this is stretchier than this, and sometimes it's hard to tell, but sometimes you can tell. And then obviously this is the bias, and that stretches the most. Okay, so the first thing I do is I draw a 1-inch center front grain line. So I'm gonna measure over, so I'm not measuring the fuzz. So just start where the muslin, the woven plain weave fabric starts. So that's where you wanna start, and you wanna do your 1-inch and you just pencil it in. And when you're draping, you need pins, your pins and the L square, and these are the kind of pins that you use, and you'll need your curves and your rulers and your measuring tape. So this kind of went off a little. And then the next thing you do is, and I'm just gonna put, this is my center front, is you measure on your dress form. So can you guys hand me that dress form? I'm gonna use that one. So I wanna put a mark 4 inches down from the top. So that's number 1. So number 1, draw your 1-inch grain line. Number 2, 4 inches down. Mark, just like that. Nice strong mark. Now I'm going to measure on here. This is my center front neck. And measure down to my center front at the bust. So it's 7 1/4 roughly. So I'm going to transfer that to here. So 7 1/4. And then I'm going to go ahead and measure to the waist. So waist is going to be the center of the tape for us. It's always the center of the tape, not above, not below. It's going to be the center. So it's 7. So I'll go ahead and mark that. Now I'm going to measure from here to my apex. And again, we're working with the right side of the body. So just get in the habit. If you notice, I always go to the right side. So that is, and this has a pin, so I do that too. If you're confused about where the apex is, it is helpful to have a little pin there. I do that on my dress forms. So it's 3 1/2. So then this is my center front bust, so I'm going to measure out. Well, first I'm going to draw my, sorry guys, my square a line out. Okay, I got to square a line out before I can draw my 3 1/2 guideline. So this is called prepping your muslin, and this is setting up all the guidelines. So first my center front on grain, then I'm going to draw, then I'm going to go down 4 inches. Everyone's going to do the same, the first 4 inches. And then for this measurement, everyone's is gonna be different because everyone's gonna have a different measurement here and everyone's gonna have a different measurement here. They might be similar, and this measurement as well. So this was 3.5. So I'm gonna just go ahead and measure out 3.5. And I'm gonna mark that with another guideline. And now I'm gonna drop a grain line using my pin. So do you guys all have a push pin? So this is called dropping a grain line. You use your push pin. And I'm sticking it in. This is my apex, right? And dragging it down. Can you guys see? You want to come over here? Are you sure? So this will give me a perfectly on grain line.
Couldn't you use scissors to do that?
No, you have to use a pin. You have to use a push pin. And if you want to use mine, you don't have one, you can. And then you can measure across and see that's 3.5. It should be the same all the way down. So I didn't use my push pin for this guy, and I should have. So I want you guys to do it this way.
For the main?
For the 1-inch center front, you're gonna drop a grain.
If anyone needs push pins, I also have like a box, like, so I still have a lot.
Bunny is your dealer on the push pins. Okay. So, so that's my correct grain line. And if you need help, if you've never dropped a grain line before and you're struggling, I can come over and see what you're doing. So now it's correct. So now I can use my ruler and draw this in too. Okay?
That's so much more efficient. I've always heard that you pull a thread running the edge, and just so time consuming.
I do the pin. Sometimes it takes a couple, it might start. So that, the trick with the pin is to start like this, like 1 inch down, and do it exactly the way I'm doing it. And then you push, and I'm keeping the pin on the table. And then I go down about 1 inch, and then I move my fingers up close. And then I go down another 1 inch or 2 inches and move it up close. So I'm never taking the pin off the table. I'm just kind of pulling it down, and I'm pulling like this.
And it stays in the groove.
And it's,
yes. Right.
Yeah, it's just like, see how I'm pulling and it's just staying? So that's the technique that you're doing, and go nice and slow. So I think that's good. So we've got our neck, right? And then we've got our apex, our apex, and this is our center front bust there. And that's all you need, really. So then I'm gonna fold this back. Okay. I just didn't know if she had a class starting. I messed up on the time or something. I like to fold this back and put a couple pins in it. That's just my technique. So, you know, you guys might develop a different way. I like to put a couple pins in, and then I take them out once I start draping so it doesn't pop out. You can finger press this center front line so it stays in place, but it should look like this.
Could you iron it?
No, you never want to iron this fold. Never iron it, you just finger press it, okay? Because it'll make it be off grain. So then I like to put a pin in the apex, and I go straight to my apex like this and put it in. And that's how you can get a really accurate start. And then I anchor the apex with like 3 pins, because this is my pivot point and I really don't want it moving around. And then I go up to my neck and I'll pin that, so I can just take this out.
Which one you taking out? The one
I
that
just
was
took
on the
out one of
fold?
these here that were on the fold.
Okay.
And and pinning that into place. And then I'm gonna anchor my neck too, because that tends to pull as I'm draping. It'll pull out of the way. So I'm gonna anchor that point too. And now I'm gonna smooth down the center front and put my pins along the center front. This, you do not keep your pin a couple of inches above your apex, because you want to leave this open. You're not pinning it flat like that, right? Because we need fabric so it can go across the bust. So we want to leave this open, and I marked my waist, so I know my waist goes right there, right? So I'm going to put a pin in there, and I can take this pin out, and I'm going to smooth up my center front and put another pin right here, okay? So that's the first start. This should be nice and open like that. Then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to take this guy. This is my balance line, and I want it to be parallel to the floor. So make sure it's parallel to the floor. Stand back a little, you know, best as you can, parallel to the floor, and I smooth it out. Smooth it out, and you can feel the seams. That's why these seams are big here on the side seam. I can feel it and put a pin, okay? Then I like to go down, so I smoothed it out, and now I'm gonna go down like this, straight down the side seam. I'm not pulling, I'm not tugging, I'm not doing anything. I want my excess to stay here because this is gonna be a dart. So I just smooth straight down, and I'm gonna pin at the waist. Okay? Then I'm gonna come over here, and I need a pinch of ease right here at the waist. So you just literally take a pinch. It's right in between the princess line. This is my princess line and my side seam, and that's where the pinch of ease is. So it's about 1/4 of an inch, and I take a pinch, and I put the pin in it like that, okay? Now I can finish smoothing the center front and smooth the side seam, and this is where my dart is gonna be on the waist. Okay, so this line right here, your grain line, should be the center of the dart. And it should be on the princess line. It should be thereabouts on the princess line, right? That's where this dart should be. So it might be slightly off. The most important thing is that this is the center of the dart, okay? So I'm just smoothing it, and then see this? This is where you start clipping. So you're gonna need your fabric scissors, which I don't know where mine went. Here they are. So you're gonna need your fabric scissors. So once I start seeing that, I need to clip into it and release the muslin so it's laying flat, because that's tension, and I don't want that tension. It's gonna affect my fit.
You make the cut at the pinch?
It doesn't have to be at the pinch. That's just where I saw it needed to be. So with draping, there's a lot less of the like measuring and exact. It's more of your eye and just a feel for it. So it's not always going to be something exact. So I had you guys create a piece that was 24 inches long, because some of you are going to be doing a 14 dress form and you needed the extra muslin, but some of you are going to be like me where you have all this excess muslin. Normally, you know, for the size 8, you wouldn't need all that. You wouldn't need 24 inches, but I just made it the same for all of you. So I'm clipping up to release that tension, but I don't want to clip too far, right? Because if I clip too far, then I'm going to clip into where my seam allowance is going to go and where my waist is, right? So you can only clip, you know, I'm leaving myself like 1 inch from the waist, okay?
Please say it with your hand. Yes.
Okay.
Did you make a fold right here? That's the pinch.
That's the ease.
That's the ease.
That's my pinch of ease. So right here, I'm gonna go ahead and just pin my dart. This is how you pin your dart. You wanna pin it right at the center of the tape. Not up here, not down here, at the center of the tape, and you pin it like this, just the way you pinned your ease. You put the pin through it like that, okay? Not like, you're not pinning it like that. pinning it like this, okay, right at the waist. And then you can go ahead and you can put some pins. It's important to put pins along the center of the waist, because that's a guide, because when you're marking on the table, or when you're marking on the dress form, you're gonna be putting pencil marks where those pins are. So the first step is this step, the draping and pinning, and then there's a second step called marking, and then a third step called truing on the table, okay? So, and then the next thing about my dart is I want to find the vanishing point, right? So where's my vanishing point? So on this girl, gosh, she's really getting up close. So we always want to have at least a ½ inch backed off. So even if it looks like it's way up there, make sure you're at least a ½ inch. And that's how you mark your vanishing point. You just pop the pin in like that, okay? And now I'm gonna direct my attention up here, okay? So there's my first dart. Everything should be nice and smooth. So check, make sure everything's smoothed. It should look like this. If I need to do a couple more of these to get this laid out better for myself, I can cut this off even, get all this excess off. That. And it looks like it's laying pretty decent. Couple more snips. Did you see how it released right there? Okay, so now I'm gonna do the neck, then the shoulder, and this other dart. And can you see? I can like, okay.
I'll go around.
Come over here, come over here. So I'm gonna take this pin out, and now I definitely need my scissors. So I come up to the neck, and see how I'm using my fingers? I literally am, and I'm feeling this seam line. And I kind of know where it is because I've been doing this a while, but if you need to look because you can't feel it, then go ahead and look. And I'm just sliding my fingers along my neck seam and pinning every ½ inch. And then once the tension starts, see how this tension's starting? That's how I know I need to clip. So now I'm clipping down like this, okay? Okay.
How far down?
Not too far that you clip into your seam, and not too little that you didn't release the tension, okay? So I'm gonna keep pushing back. And so this is where it's helpful to have a dress form that moves. So anyway, I'm gonna wing it with the dress form that doesn't move. So, and normally 4 inches down is plenty on the dress forms that I've used in the past, but on this one, for some reason, 4 inches is not enough. So I barely have enough to get up to my shoulder. So when you guys drape yours, you're gonna need to go down 5 inches. So if you're taking notes, revise that. So when I was marking, you have to prep your muslin, right? And I was marking, the first marking I did after the center front, I measured down 4 inches and marked the neck. You guys gotta go down 5, because actually let's just make it 5.5 to be sure. I don't want you guys to run into a problem. So make it 5.5. So I'm gonna still make it work, even though I don't have enough. But this is actually fitting nicely right here along the neck. I'm clipping and getting all this tension out, and it's looking pretty good. It should be nice and smooth. Clip a little bit more right here, and you clipping straight in. Do you see how I'm like going straight? I'm not kind of going like this. I'm trying to go straight down, and that helps you release. And I continue pinning all the way up to the shoulder and the neck. So this is the shoulder neck intersection. And it's really important to pin that really well at the shoulder neck, okay? Now all I have to do is use my hand and smooth across the shoulder, smooth. And I want this. Don't be like trying to like go like that. No, you're just smoothing this out. I want all this excess is gonna turn into this dart, okay? So smoothing over the shoulder, and I'm pinning along my shoulder seam. My pins are going right on the shoulder seam. So another thing, like on my wolf dress form, I can feel my seams through the muslin, but on these I really can't. So those are the little things that make a difference on a quality dress form. So if you're draping, you can't feel your seams, you're lost, and you're like, huh? So just another reason why it's better to get the right dress form. And continuing every ½ inch, and I think this is the seam. And then I want to pin, this is called the ridge. This is my, the ridge right here, the shoulder ridge. So you want to pin up to the ridge. So this is, see where the cliff is, it drops off. You want to pin right up to the edge of the ridge, the cliff, right before it drops off, okay? So I've pinned right up to there, and now I'm gonna release this pin here. Oops. And take all that excess and just bring it down and make my dart, okay? And this should be the center of my dart, this balance line, okay? So I'm not pulling really tight or tugging anything, I'm just bringing this down, smoothing this over like this. So I need this, see how this is kind of bubbling? So this is nice and smooth. This is what I want. It's okay to have that. This is nice and smooth. This is pinned down. I'm actually gonna anchor this a little better because it's kind of pulling. And I don't want it to move so I can get my dart. And again, this should be parallel to the floor. So you wanna stand back and make sure your dart is eyeball it, you're not measuring or anything, you're just going by eye. And then you're gonna pin it the same way, right at the side seam. So I can feel my side seam, that's where this pin needs to be. And I'm gonna pin, after I have the dart, now I can lock in my side seam. So I pin right under the arm plate on the side seam. And then I'm gonna keep pinning along the side seam, just like I did up here on the shoulder and the waist. I wanna pin along the side. And I wanna keep this nice and smooth, like this, all the way down. I'm pinning on both sides of the dart. And I'm almost done, and I can do the next step. So this I'm not liking, so I'm gonna pull these guys up and kind of adjust this a little bit. Is everything okay?
I will.
Oh, don't burn yourselves. So I want to kind of loosen this up, and I think I need to clip a little into here. So it just relaxed. I don't know if you guys saw that, but the muslin relaxed, and I love seeing that happen. It's kind of
Why don't you release
this is
The
the
pinch.
ease.
this? That's the
A
it.
It's-
pinch, yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
pinch of ease because you want your girl to breathe, right?
Right.
How will she move? Okay. So these aren't knits. These are woven
Right.
fabrics.
Right.
Okay. So I just clipped, and see how it's already laying better?
Mhm.
So that's what you want, is this nice, that gives you a better fit. Remember, fit is the key. That's how you make more money. That's how you can go set yourself apart with all the competition out there. So because of the pinch, there's a little bubble here. That's okay. All right. So I finished the side seam. So now I'm just gonna double check, make sure that this kind of looks a little funky to me. So I'm gonna lay that out and make sure everything here is smooth, pinned properly. I need a vanishing point on this guy. So the vanishing point, again, it's by eye. So I want it to be on my balance line. So I'm gonna put where I kind of see that bubbling ending on the balance line, like that, okay? So, again, because I can't raise this, like, I don't think my dart is perpendicular to the floor, but I did the best I could. You guys try to get yours more perpendicular. So that's the pinging. She's done. So now I need to mark it. So I like to start up here at the neck, and I just you twist your pencil. So this, you don't make dashes. You take the pencil, dab it on the seam. You want to know where your seam, and you're twisting. This is the technique. Okay, very specific technique. Twisting and twisting like this on your seam, and then at the intersection of the neck and the shoulder, you do a cross hatch. So I don't know if you can see that, but it's like a cross hatch. So you know that's the intersection, okay? And then I'm twisting my pencil, and I've got my pins here, so I know that's where I'm twisting and marking. So, and you can feel if you need to, you want to make sure you're on that seam line, feel with your fingers. And then at the ridge, the shoulder and the armhole, I'm doing another cross hatch right there. And now under the arm plate, if the pin's in the way, maybe you need to move it a little. I'm going to do a cross hatch here at the under the arm plate at the side seam. Okay. I'm going to mark my dart. So this is how you mark the dart. You just rub your pencil over the edges of the pin like that. You guys see? And then you rub it on the other side like that. Rub across it, rub across it. That's how you mark the dart. And then the vanishing point you mark like this. You just rub across that bit that was pierced by the muslin. You can mark the side seam. You don't have to, because we're just going to use the ruler and redraw it. So you don't have to waste your time. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because I like to have it to see it. Yeah, and then at the waist and the side seam, remember, center of the tape, another cross hatch. Okay, and then I'm going to dot the waist all the way across, right in the center of the waistband where my pins are, and I'm going to rub that side of the pin, both sides of the pin, just like that, and twisting my pencil. And at the center front waist, I like to do this. Same with the neck. I make a little slash. I just make it stronger. And then my vanishing point up here. Don't forget that. So there's all the markings. Neck and all the intersections, shoulders, side seam, darts, and vanishing points. So once it's all marked, then you can take it off. And then,
I have a question.
yeah.
How do you mark you don't mark this part?
No, not right now. Oh wait, sorry, I did forget something. So you always want to, sorry, you were right. So here's the screw, something was missing. This is my screw in the plate, and you just kind of want to like eyeball parallel where that is and mark it on the ridge like that, just like that. Okay, so find that screw and then just parallel straight over to the ridge of the armhole. You do a little slash, and that is there to help you draw your armhole with the French curve. This just kind of helps you know that you don't want your curve to be over here. You need to keep your curve in this way. So it is very important. Thank you. All right. Then you just take off all your pins, and then on the table you lay it flat and true it up. After you true it up, you add seam allowance to it. That's part of the truing. And then you cut all the excess away, and then you pin it back on the dress form. You have to pin it back on the dress form in order to drape the back. So there's a technique to pinning it back on the dress form as well to get the most accurate drape for the back. And but we'll do that on Monday, okay? And then on Monday, after you guys finish, hopefully today I want you guys to do this, and I'll come around and help you. And then on Monday, I'll probably, I'm gonna have the strapless push it to Wednesday.
Thank you.
Is that all right?
Thank you.
Does that make everyone happy? So let's make the strapless due on Wednesday. And then on Monday, you guys will finish the back, and then after you've draped it in muslin, you lay it, you trace it onto the manila, and you lay them. There's several different ways you can do it. You know, some of you might have a better way than me, but you lay the muslin on the manila, and you can use the carbon paper or whatever works for you, and you transfer it to manila, and cut it out. So then you true up the lines after you transfer it, and then you guys will have these, and they'll fit your dress forms. So when you do your midterm and your final, you can see it fitting on your girl, and you can get a feel for that. And I think it's going to be really beneficial. And you can do this on your dress form when you have one at home. So you'll know how to do this, so you can create one for your own. You could even do this on a person. So like if you had a female foot model you were doing this on, and just have them put like a leotard on with the proper lingerie, and you could drape muslin on them while they stand there and get a rough sloper of that person. So there's Clo 3D now. You don't even have to do that. You can do it in Clo and punch in the numbers and have your avatar in your custom size. But it's always good to learn this the original way, right? I hope, I think it's good to know how to do it this way, 3D way, and not just in the 2D universe, or using the measurements. So Helen Joseph Armstrong, she drafts this using the measurements, which is so like mind-blowing. I like doing it this way, so I like showing my students this way. All right, any questions on that so far? So now I'm just taking my rulers, and I already have, so this is why I'm always like, when I did all those demos with our halter and the scoop neck and the darts, I was always doing the center of the dart, right? I'd find the center of the dart, and then, we'd back off and then draw in the legs. So this, if you learn the draping method, then you already see how the center of the dart's so important. It's gonna be important when we do the torso sloper too. So this is my vanishing point, right? I don't want to lose that. So I'm marking in and this is nice. These are custom vanishing points. And Helen Joseph Armstrong, she just like gives you a number. Like, so this is like customized, to fit. And this is really easy. I know where my dart legs are, right? Because I marked it, and now I'm just drawing them in. Okay, and now I'm going to do this one. So one dart leg here, one dart leg here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do my neck. So this is what you need for your neck. So neck gets dropped a quarter inch. So remember that. We got to drop that down a quarter inch. Because, right? I don't like it when I'm wearing things like that. And then I'm just gonna use my curve. This line has to connect to here, right? And see how I make my T, I'm generous with my T, because you wanna have this squared off a little bit. So if you just make a little teeny mark, you're not gonna have it squared off, and then you get this like divot, when it's folded in half and you unfold it. All right, so I'm just gonna twist this until I get, and again, this is by eye. Everyone's is gonna be a little different. A lot of it's your hand. the dress form, the shape of the dress form. And now I'm gonna do my shoulder. So the shoulder is a little bit curved, and we already talked about that. So, you know, a lot of pattern makers, they, you know, usually it's just a straight line, but I like to do the curve. It gives you a more accurate couture shoulder. So that these little intersections here where we did the crosshatch, they're so important because that's what you're using. So notice I'm not directly on those dots, and that's fine because I'm truing up the lines. It's gonna come off a little bit, but I have these cross hatches here that give me a guide, and it's okay to, you know, when as you true your lines, for these lines not necessarily to match up perfectly.
With the shoulder leaving the curve, wouldn't that be like helpful to like smooth that way because it helps make sure like it's not super like taut up there?
Yeah.
Putting it together.
Yeah, it's gonna be, I mean, it's gonna cost more if you're looking at it from a cost perspective,
Yeah.
because it's just harder to, on the marker, to lay out patterns that aren't perfectly geometric, and it costs, when you're sewing it, it's a little more difficult to sew that curve. So it is more couture, but you guys, once you learn this, you can always like draw a straight line and go down, right?
Oh no, I meant like taut. Like it's like what is it? Like it's gonna be too like pinched.
It,
If you leave it, it'll make it.
if
less
it's
like that.
if it's straight, it'll just be, it won't be fitted to your shoulder as
Okay.
much, right?
Yeah.
It'll
so
have
like
that
it
open
to-
space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now I need to do the side seam, and I have to pin my darts closed first. So this is how you close your darts. So you grab the bottom leg, and I'm folding it up. So dart intake always goes down when it's vertical, right? You guys know those rules? So I'm not taking the upper leg and going like that. I'm taking the bottom leg. And I'm grabbing it where I had the marks on the side seam, and I'm just gonna fold it over to the top, and you pin your darts like this. Pin into the fold at an angle. And now I'm gonna be doing that all the way across. I'm grabbing that bottom leg and I'm matching it up to the top leg, and your muslin should just kind of like melt into place. It feels like it's melting. And I put pins in about every 1/2 inch, and they're at an angle. You can't really get a pin up into the vanishing point, you know, just go as far as you can. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna move this pin a little bit closer. Okay. And now, since I just did that one, I'm gonna go ahead and close this one too, since I'm doing that. So again, darts that are on the horizontal always have the intake going down. Darts that are vertical always have the intake going to the interior of the body. That's how I remember it. So now I'm going to be grabbing this leg and going this way, because my dart intake needs to be facing center front. And I always grab it right here at the waist and match up that line first and pin in the fold like that. Okay, and then I'm just folding on that pencil line and putting it to that. And if you need to like kind of get in there and create the shape, it helps to fold it down. Again, the muslin should kind of melt into place, and not, you know, keep your pin. Part of draping is the neatness. You know, your pins, your muslin should be pressed and crisp, and your pins all angled. You know, you get graded on all of that too. So everything neat and pinned properly. Again, I'm not going to be able to get all the way up to the top of the vanishing point, and that's fine. You can go as far as you can. It should be nice and soft like that. So now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to true this side seam up, and then I'm going to do the armhole in the waist. So like I said, I'm just going to match up these two intersections and draw my line. And then this is really important. We always drop it an inch. So we drop our armhole an inch, and this is to make room for a sleeve. Okay, that's for the sleeve. And then we bring it out a 1/2 inch, because again, she's got to breathe, and we got to have room for the sleeve. So we don't want it to be up against the body. So it comes down an inch, and then I'm going to come out a 1/2 inch. So I just take my ruler and measure out a 1/2 inch, and I'm going to go to 0 at the waist. So up here, 1/2 inch to 0. And I want to be a little, I want to go up a little higher so that I make sure I can get my curve in there. So this is my new side seam. So when I see your work, when I come around and look, I need to see all this work. I need to see your original armhole, and then you dropped it, and then you pulled it out, right? So this is kind of like a draft too. So now I can put, this is the curve, it's the easiest curve. I can put it right on my dropped line and match it up with my intersection. I'm in a good spot right here because this is my guide. I don't want to be back here. I want to be somewhere on the other side of that guide. So this is looking pretty good, pretty easy peasy with this curve. Okay. And there's my armhole, and now I have left, all I have left is my waist. So I do like to use my the shape for the waist. I use my hip curve for it. So I take the ruler and square off the waist a little bit. Again, I don't want a little divot there. You have to square it off. And then this hip curve, the very hip curve, works pretty well to stay in the character here of these lines. Almost exactly on the lines. You guys see that? And then all I have to do is add seam allowance. Okay? So this neck gets a 1/4 inch, and then everything else is a 1/2. So the side seam, we're not gonna cut away yet. We're gonna leave it because when we drape the back, we're gonna true the side seam together, okay? So 1/4 inch on the neck, and then I'm doing my 1/2 inch.
If you're making the sloper, do you need the seam allowance at this point?
What do you mean?
On the sloper, it doesn't usually have seam allowance. When you're making the pattern, you would have a seam allowance, correct?
That's correct, you're right. So when we're draping, we have to have seam allowance because we have to pin our muslin together. But when you transfer it to manila, you'll take it away. Okay? So, good question.
That's 1/2 inch on the shoulder?
1/2 inch on the shoulder. And remember, I was able to just barely make it, but I came down 4 inches down on my muslin. I want you guys to do 5.5 just so that you don't have that issue. Even though I was able. So I'm not gonna true this yet because when we put it back on the dress form, I'm gonna show you right now, and then you guys can go do this yourself. But when we do, on Monday when we drape the back, I'm gonna show you how to drape the back, and we end up truing the two sides together. It's more accurate. So I can go ahead and start cutting this off. And I'm leaving this. Don't cut or anything. I'm just gonna cut these guys. Okay. And when you're working, I don't know, when I'm working in Clo 3D, I have a sloper set. I know some of you are doing that. There's different ways that you can make patterns in Clo 3D. you can, you know, take a preset module and adjust it. You can like drape on the avatar, and I have like a sloper set, and you can trace, you can scan and trace in a sloper set, and you can pivot and transfer and do all that. Everything you're learning here you can do in Clo, so it's good to learn this as a starting point. So I left that so that so now then you can pin it back on the dress form. So for you guys, I don't know who's using the dress forms in between now and Monday, so I don't want you guys to leave your muslin on them. So make sure you take the muslin off and just keep it really neat, because if you just throw it in your bag and it's all wrinkled, then you're gonna have a hard time getting it ironed and pressed for Monday, because we want it to be nice and neat. If you want to put it on a hanger and hang it up back here, I'm fine with that, if you want to keep it nice. But yeah, I'm sure other classes are using these forms. But this is what you would do on Monday. You'll put it up on the form. Remember, we dropped a 1/4 inch, so this line won't be up here, right? This line is down here because we dropped it. So, and I'm pinning it back on. I put a pin there. I'm gonna put a pin up here at the shoulder intersection. And so this is the technique that you need to do to drape the back. I'm sinking the pins in. It's a little different than when you were originally draping. So the pins get sunk in, so that way we can drape the back over the front. Does that make sense? So, bless you. Bless you. So, I don't know, you need probably like 6 pins across the shoulder here, but you have to sink them in. And it's easier if you put them at an angle. If you try to drive them straight down, you won't get them in. So you slide them in at an angle and sink them all the way in flat. That way, when we drape the back, we just lay it over and we transfer this line to the back, okay? So I'm just sinking these in. And then over here, I can match up my waist, right? I know that should be at the center of the tape. And I like to put a couple of pins, a couple inches below the bust area, right? And then one, and again, this always comes apart, so it's always a good idea to anchor it. And then one a couple inches above, just like that. And then this part, since we're gonna be draping it together, I just leave it like this, fold it like this, okay? And then we're gonna drape the back over that, and then when we do the side seam, we're gonna put them together. We're gonna drape them together like this, okay? Does that make sense? And all of this should be just fitting nice and pretty, right? See? Okay, let's do it, right? Yay.